Out for my morning walk with Dudley this morning. Some days he doesn't want to walk. I have to carry him halfway. Little things trigger him. He has still a lot of fear from probably, I'm guessing, the whole puppy mill thing. He was one of, I think it was 21 puppies that were rescued out of 42 or 43 dogs. When they found them, the puppies were kept in a black box, similar to what lobster fishermen use to put their lobsters in. They're like a big black crate. And the puppies were found in their own feces and in the dark, away from the mothers. When I first got Dudley, he was scared to sleep in the dark, so he would panic and start crying, and so I had to put him beside my bed, put his bed beside my bed. And like Luna, Dudley suckles on a teddy bear. Luna will suckle her tail, but Dudley, he suckles on his little teddy bear for comfort. Animals are very empathic, just like human beings, and they suffer from trauma. He's coming along very good. Most days are good. When I first got him, he would try to stay in one area, and too much fear of moving outwards from that area, or he tried to hide behind furniture. He didn't really know how to play, so we had to work on getting him to relax and not be terrified of squeak toys and other things that make noises when a puppy plays with it. I learn a lot from my pets. They teach me a lot about not only animals, but human nature as well. And patterns, and how hard it is to move past trauma and heal and build up confidence. Fear is something that grips your soul. It makes you feel frozen, like you can't move forward. It makes you feel like your power has been taken away from you. Like you depend on other people to help you figure out which way you're supposed to go. When something loud or something scary happens now to Dudley, he immediately looks at me, or he'll run to me, because he knows that I've become his safe place. But what also happens with dogs or any animal is they can become too dependent on their owners. And I don't believe that's a good thing as well, because then they become possessive and aggressive if anyone comes near you, or they don't socialize well because they become dependent on you for the signals. And so on our walks, I let him run free. He still has a leash on him, but and hopefully that's not a dead mouse. He gets to be a dog. He gets to be independent of me. It lets him step out of his boundaries a little bit and build up his courage a bit more. Gives him freedom. I see this with people too. I see in families where perhaps there were overbearing parents that push their children to do something because the expectations that were put on them from their own parents, that desire to perhaps live through your child and want them to be or do what you expect of them. And some parents can even become competitive with their children or jealous. I know it sounds crazy, but I've heard that and I've seen it. And then the child gets caught in the battle between the mother and the father and pretty much gets used like a pawn or a place to empty blame or guilt or shame. And then the child becomes what the label that they say, bipolar or schizophrenic, and perhaps there's physical abuse or just mental abuse from the whole family unit. Not just the mother and father, but the grandparents or the aunts and uncles. And sometimes you see the ones that are supposed to be guiding the children will try to pull them into, when they see the child has ambition or has a dream or wants to do something, they'll try to squash that. Or they will try to pull them into the grooming of addiction, like alcoholism, or perhaps the parent is addicted to pharmaca and thinks that, oh, if I run to the doctor, my child won't be upset anymore. I'll just feed them some pills and the miracle will be performed by the doctor and the child will be fixed. But that's not how it works. And we can see that now in the world around us. The grooming and the shaming and the fear. I grew up with these sorts of abuse on both sides of my family lineage. And sure, there were relatives that were aware of what was going on and they stepped outside of it. But it takes a lot of courage to fight, to get away from it. My own mother and her mother had a bad relationship. Her mother was very manipulative and she caused a lot of discourse between her daughters, a lot of competition and gaslighting, I guess you would call it. And so the trust between those sisters was destroyed. And the grandmother, who was supposed to be a matriarch and a guide, single-handedly tore apart her own family unit. And when I dug a bit deeper, I learned that my grandmother had suffered from abuse when she was a child. So you can see how grooming gets placed into the DNA, just like a tree. When a tree learns to fight off an invader, like a disease or an insect, you'll see trees form poisons or they'll form thorns to protect themselves. Well, humans and animals and also do the same thing when they've been abused. Like the elephant in a circus who's made to perform the same routine over and over, or is ritually abused. And then you see it rampage and turn on the people. Or even, the movies where the machine turns on the people. Like Terminator and things like that. I believe that absolute power corrupts absolutely. I mean, if you look at the Pope, who sits on a golden throne and dictates to you what sin is, and he protects the ones that are pedophiles, that are under his wing, and he has his own bank, but it's a sin for you to have any sort of wealth. You should give it all away, especially to the Vatican. And then he funds wars and he buys properties, and he sells little plastic idols for you to worship. And then calls himself holy or the Father. It's the same thing with our governments. They tell you you have to pay taxes, you have to do what they say, you have to take the medicines they tell you to take, or you're going to be forced into not being able to work. And the pharmacists and the doctors that work together to sell the medications to you. The governments have their left and their right. One is good and evil, but they try to play each other to be one or the other when they all pretty much end up being the same. They make promises, and at the end of the day, once they're elected, people are forgotten. Then they become pawns. Pawns in the game. How is it that politicians are allowed to use your money to buy $1 million apartments for their friends in New York? But if you've paid into unemployment insurance, which is supposed to be a safety net for you, and you have 4 children to provide for, and your wife is trying to work, pay a babysitter, and help you keep your head above water, you say no when the man is out of work. You look at him and you say, no, we can't help you. Especially if they know that you really need the money. And that's their insurance. You pay into that your whole life. And then, does your family get any of that when you die? That insurance money that they take off your paycheck? And what about your taxes? They say that you pay tax so that the municipality in your region can fix the roads or improve the housing for the poor, or build community projects, or invest in schools or healthcare or whatever it is. And then you look around and you see potholes in the road that you could plant trees in. But in the rich neighborhoods, the streets are like golden, not a pothole in sight. And your government elected official is off on his next trip with his family to Europe, while you're worried about whether or not your child is going to be sent off to war to fight in one of their battles. They try to stop you from, they put in guidelines to try to stop you from planting gardens or collecting rainwater. It's all illusions. And then they make you think that there's nothing you can do, even though we are more of them than they are. This is why they try to keep the numbers in check for people on the planet. They release diseases and then they turn around and offer you the cure, which just leads to more confusion and chaos or sickness, as we can see with most of the seniors now. I just read an article about some biotech thing where they've come out with a new way to biologically help your children that are now suffering from kidney disease, because apparently there's a rise in kidney disease in children. When did that start? What about the heart problems now in children? And the rise in bipolar and schizophrenia and all these other things that they're trying to normalize, just like they normalized cancer. When in fact we all know that was caused a lot by the environment and how it was infected with government interference of pesticides, herbicides, and pollutants. More people are sick and tired of being sick and tired these days. And they're looking for answers. And they want to know the way back. They want to know how to connect again. With what's missing in their lives. When I worked with seniors, one of the major things I noticed was that they sat for hours on end watching game shows and news stations. And a lot of them, when I would try to interact, try to get them to engage in something creative or have a discussion about vitamins or a healthier way of living, they couldn't hear me. So I'm not one to force anything. I just try to share what I've been seeing happening over the course of my lifetime. and what I've seen in my own family and how I managed to glitch that and get myself out of it. It wasn't easy. I had to leave a lot of people in the past, and I had to learn how to have boundaries. So when I see someone going into a conversation that I don't want to get into, especially if it's political or, the pharmakia kind of thing, then I've learned to shut it down, change the subject, or try to get them to focus on something a little more positive. Try to glitch their train of thoughts and maybe plant a seed to help them. Sometimes in your life, you have to walk your path alone with nobody else. You have to glitch the program. Sometimes you can't heal where you got sick. You have to leave that place that doesn't resonate with your frequency, because staying there is going to tear you apart. Just like Jesus being crucified on the cross. The polarities in your body are going to pull against each other. The left and the right. So you have to pick your path. And stay true to yourself. And it's not going to be an easy path because you haven't walked it before. You've always been persuaded and put your trust in other people and to guide you and protect you, to make the right decisions. It's like the twins, Lucifer and Michael. They fight constantly. The dark and the light inside of you, polarities. Two seeds from two different trees. If you go down one path, you give in to your desires. You give in to the material world, materialism, money, sex, drugs, alcoholism, abuse, war, hate. And sometimes if you go too far to the other side, the spiritual side, we've all seen what happened to these preachers that formed cults. And ended up falling from grace. Because nobody is perfect. We all make mistakes. We're not robots. And we all fall from grace occasionally. That's how we learn. And a good example of someone who thinks they're holier than thou, just look at the Pope. Here's a prime example for you. And I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. I mean, my mom is pretty brainwashed. She's a good person, but I see both sides of her. How the hypocritical part of it, of religion, where you tell your children not to be a certain way, and then you shouldn't gossip, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And then you watch and you see them doing it themselves. So that's how you learn. What keeps this programming of gossip going? I blame it on the news, just like I blame McDonald's on the fall of eating healthy. The news feeds so much gossip, 24/7. And a lot of seniors soak it up like a sponge. They believe in every word that comes out of that journalist's mouth. And the journalist fell from grace a long time ago. When they stopped trying to show the truth in the world, and now we have real people. Real, genuine people that want you to see the truth, showing you what's going on. Your television is the matrix. Your television is what traps you in a box of limitations and beliefs and fear and war and sickness. It's that black media box in the corner of your room. Affecting your frequency. With their commercials and division, pharmakia, alcoholism. And the same old thing on repeat over and over again. In concentration camps, this is how they would break down the prisoners, by playing the same thing over and over again. It's up to you to choose your path.